Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Um, yeah, you already know the drill. Did all of these within the same night, or tried to, and, let's just get into it. Oh, wait, before I start, if you hear, like, a winging, that's, my alarm going off. That's my alarm going off. And, I'll, stop it, like, as soon as I hear it, but yeah. With that out of the way, let's get into it. What if Naruto was raised in the Sand Village? Chapter 4. The first mission. A few years pass by, and now the Sand Quartet is 12 and 13. Tamari and Conqueror are 13, while Naruto and Gawa are 12. Naruto, with the help of Gawa and Wasa, formally met and befriended Kurama. Kurama wouldn't consider the two of them friends, but they all know he likes Naruto. Naruto is now able to control and maintain Kurama's chakra, and he learns how to, alongside Gawa as well, make a connected link with Gawa at any time as long as either Gawa or Sukaku are awake, and vice versa for Naruto and Kurama. Naruto over these years quickly realizes that he had a Magnus that had Kekkei, but this one is the most unique out of everyone that has it. He can use the third Kazekage's Iron Sand, Wasa, the fourth Kazekage's Gold Dust, Sukaku's Sand, as well as Sukaku's magnetic markings, and Toroi's magnetic field. Toroi is the guy in the fourth floor that used magnet style to magnetize those weapons, mainly Shuriken, and anything the Shuriken touched would be magnetized, and he could bring that thing towards himself or the Shuriken. Naruto trained with Wasa on. Oh wait, before I continue, sorry, I thought I heard something. As a heads up, Naruto will have Toei Shuriken. Anyway, Naruto trained with Wasa on his gold dust, talked to Sukaku about how to control his sand and his markings, read about how the third Kazekage used his sand, then read how Toei used his magnet style. As for Gawa, he can now control Sukaku's chakra and turn into his one-tailed cloak. Well, like, now he can willingly transform into like that, transform into that thing you saw, him fight in the tuning exams. Like, well, the white side of his body with Sukaku's arm and face. You can transform into that and just have his entire body be Sukaku, but still on two legs. Yeah. Don't know why that was so hard for me to say. Also, when he infuses a lot of chakra into his sand, it turns into Wasa's gold dust with Sukaku's markings on top of it. Tamari can now successfully hold and swing her heavy fan with ease, as when she was younger she could only lift it for a few seconds before falling. She now has a good handle with Renjutsu and increased the weight of her smaller fans as well. She made a summoning contract with Kamatari a lot earlier. Kamatari is the animal she summons when she uses Blade Dance. And she can absorb Renjutsu through her mouth like Wendy from Fairy Tail. And for Conqueror, he studied up on Sasuke's puppets, and had made the 3 puppets he had insipid during this time frame. And now he has made a poison like Sasuke's, meaning he made a very strong poison that only he and the people close to him have access to. His puppets can use all 5 chakra natures and add them to any type of weapon or body parts. Conqueror has mastered the puppet substitution jutsu. And then he made 7 specific puppets that he called his color crew. One puppet named Red could only use strong fire jutsu. A puppet named Blue could only use strong water jutsu. Green could use earth. White could use wind. Yellow could use lightning. Purple could only use poison type things. And black could use genjutsu. The 4 of them did all of that in that like 7-year time frame, and Wasa couldn't help but feel part of all of them, and so they all felt more connected, The Sand family got the kanji for love permanently tattooed on the left side of their forehead to match Gaara's. However, Naruto took it a step further and dyed half his hair red and started to wear a half yellow, half red kimono. Gaara really liked this, needless to say. The day we return to them is the day they graduate from the academy. Naruto and Gaara had just graduated, but Kankuro and Tamari graduated for the second time since they wanted to stay with their younger siblings. They were very nervous that they might not be put on the same team, but later that day Wasa just flat out told them that he would have them all on the same team since he saw how close they were and he had the authority to do so. Then the next day the quartet went back to the academy and as Wasa said, they were all on the same team. With the joining sensei being Yasumaru, everyone in the class thought this was favoritism, since it was, but the five of them ignored it. Yasumaru brought them back home since he knew how adept they were, and he didn't need to test out this, and he didn't need to test. He didn't need to test. He didn't need to test their skills, and they all waited for the first mission. I'm sorry for that. To everyone's dismay, minus Tamari and Yasumaru, they had to find the stray cats. Wasa gave the three of them a slap on the head for complaining and waited for them to finish. And after a week of these missions and of complaining, Wasa finally caved and gave them a C-Rank escort mission from there to the Land of Waves. When Tazuna came into the room, he didn't say anything insulting about the four of them since they actually looked somewhat threatening, but the second he was about to say something about the marks on their head, he felt the killer intent aimed at him. The Sand family is able to tell when someone is going to talk about the mark, meaning they know when someone is going to say something bad about it, and before anyone can, they instinctively release killer intent to stop them from saying anything bad about it. So Tazuna quickly shuts his mouth. Anyway, Wasa starts, this is Tazuna, a bridge builder for the Land of Waves. Like I've mentioned before, your job is to escort him to the Land of Waves and protect him until the bridge is done. Is that enough action for the three of you? He asked. Naruto, Gaara, and Kankuro were going to say no, but when they saw the expression on Wasa's face, they quickly nodded. Hang on. Sorry about that. My sister came into my room. Alright, is that all, Lord Fourth? Yasumaru asked. Wasa nodded. Alright, Team 3, gear up and meet back at the village gates in 3 minutes. Yes, Sensei, they all say simultaneously. You only gave them 3 minutes since they not only live in the same home, but they also are always prepared to fight. So they really only need food supplies. And after 3 minutes, they meet up with Tazuna at the village gates and head off on their first real mission. For the first couple minutes, nothing happens, but then Yasumaru notices that there is a puddle nearby. But as he was going to mention something, the puddle exploded. He turns back to his team and he sees that Gaara had used his sand coughing on the puddle. Then the demon brothers come out and instantly go for Tazuna. But then they get trapped within Kankuro's puppet. Then they felt warmth on their necks as a trickle of blood came down since there were needles aimed at their necks. Kankuro then says, why are you going after Tazuna? And if you tell any lies, you'll be executed in a performance of art. Yasumaru takes the interrogation from there and they're able to find out that Tazuna has bounty hunters after him. Tazuna then explains the true mission after Yasumaru drilled the info out of him. But they stay on the mission regardless after Yasumaru sent a message back to Wasa via board. They keep walking and then after half an hour or so, Yasumaru starts to hear a fizzing in the air. Gaara, Naruto, Yasumaru said, and Naruto and Gaara nodded as they put up a sand dome together. The sword coming at them hits the dome and gets stuck due to the sword being met, and gets stuck into the dome. Zabuza then lands in front of the dome, grabs the handle and does a downward slash to it, or so he tried. When he went for the slash, his sword didn't move an inch. In fact, his sword felt even heavier. He was capable of holding the sword with his off hand, but now he has to use both hands to make it even move. Then the dome releases his sword, causing Zabuza to fall back. Then when he tries to get up, he can't. And then he looks down and sees that there's black markings on his sword and body, those being Sukaku's markings. Then the sand team walks up to Zabuza and Gao releases the markings on the sword, allowing Kanko to pick it up. Now, what are you going to do now that you don't have your fancy sword? Kanko asks while he's holding the sword to Zabuza's neck. The needles get flown towards Zabuza and they enter his neck. Zabuza passes out and then Haku jumps out from the tree. I'm going to try to sound as mysterious and vague as possible for this one. Thank you for taking down our missing Nin. I'm glad your team didn't face any casualties. I'll take him back to the mist and have him face his crimes. I'd also like that sword back since it's property of the Mist Village. I know that didn't sound suspicious at all. Anyway, that's what Haku said, picking up Zabuza and pointing at Kanko's sword. As Kanko is going to give the sword back, Yasumaru puts his hand out, indicating Kanko to stop. I really do appreciate that you're going to bring Zabuza in, but I must ask, why did you throw your needles at his non-vital organs? Yasumaru knew this since he was a medical ninja, and that's like a fact. In the canon cell, Yasumaru was a blue medical ninja. Haku then uses his ice style to make a wall in between the two of them and tries to run away. Yasumaru then appears in front of Haku and kicks Zabuza out of his hand. Haku puts Zabuza in ice so they can't get to him, Haku puts Zabuza in ice so they can't get to him, and he then gets prepared to fight. Yasumaru then speed blitzes Haku, knocks out his needles, and gets into a heated taijutsu brawl with Haku. After a few minutes of this, they both jump back and say at the same time, 1,000 years of death, flying kunai explosion. The two jutsu then canceled each other out, and then they landed back on the ground. Haku then uses his crystal ice mirrors and successfully traps Yasumaru in the mirrors. Yasumaru quickly goes through hand seals and thinks, Wind style, massive breakthrough. This blows the mirrors away before they reform and throw Stenbon at him. Yasumaru then tries his flying kunai explosion and then explodes the mirrors, but they reform again. Then something clicked in Yasumaru's brain and wanted to see if it was true, and so he used flying kunai explosion once more, and they once more exploded the mirrors before they reform. Yasumaru then makes 2 wind clones, and the clones use flying kunai explosion as the real Yasumaru uses wind style massive breakthrough. The explosion and mirror force and cutting power of the wind overwhelms the mirrors, meaning that it's going to take them 2 more seconds to reform than it usually does, as Yasumaru thought. And in this 2-second interval, Yasumaru and his clones go up to the rear mirror and break that one, knocking Haku out of it. Excuse me. As Haku is falling back, he throws Senbon at all the Yasumarus, and when they hit the clones, they disperse a wind blast that reaches Haku and cut and blow him away once again, but this time he's getting cut. Yasumaru then gets over Haku and he then uses wind style gear palm barrage, and he then sends out multiple gusts of wind straight to Haku's chest. Haku starts falling again, and a Yasumaru clone appears beneath him and sends his flying kunai explosions to his back, causing him to go back up into the sky. Then a wind clone appears in front of Haku and uses gear palm barrage again, bringing him down to the ground. And the clone sends flying kunai explosions at Haku's back, bringing him up into the sky. This leaves Haku in the middle of a cutting and explosion force. The will Yasumaru then appears behind Haku's head and kicks it while saying, "Combination Jutsu, Air Force Kunai Blast Boas." Haku gets flown across the terrain and sorry about that. As you could probably tell, my parents opened the door, and I think my mom's taking us out right now, so I'm gonna try to finish this fast. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, Haku gets flown across the terrain, and he miraculously lands next to Zabuza on the ground, and he sees that the ice covering Zabuza was completely covered in sand. Haku is wavering in and out of consciousness, and as things are about to go black, he hears Gato, the boss, ridicule and insult him and Zabuza. And then as his eyes were closing, he could hear Yasumaru say, "Try not to blow up the forest even more than it is, guys." And then Haku gets knocked out. And the sand quartet goes off on Gato and his goons. Gawa makes a sand dome that covers Gato and his men while they're in the dome. They feel really heavy because of the minerals in the sand. Kankuro then uses his puppets and knocks out a third of them, and that's only because Tamayo is blowing another third of them away while Naruto is knocking the last third out with gear palms and fireballs. And they did all of this in less than a minute. Then Team 3 heads out to Tazuma's place, but not before Yasumaru kills Zabuza, Haku, Gato, and his men. And he brings back the Executioner's blade and Haku's body for reasons you'll soon see. And after a week or so, Team 3 goes back to the sand. When they get back, Yasumaru makes the full report to Wasa, and when the quartet leaves to their rooms, Yasumaru takes out a scroll and shows Wasa that he had the Executioner's blade and Haku's body. So since Zabuza and Haku were missing then, I thought it'd be smart to give it to you so you can give it to the Mist. Or, if you want a suggestion, the tuning exams are coming up and this blade would be a really good puppet in the right hands. What are you trying to say? Wasa asked, trying to see where Yasumaru was going with this. Well, what I'm saying is, Kankuro has a lot of potential to be a puppet master. I honestly see him being able to rival Sasori at some point in his adulthood. And since I think that he's such a good puppet user, I was thinking that if you don't give this back to the Mist, we could turn this into a puppet on the same level as Sasori's third Kazekage puppet. And I also bought that Haku person's body so we could still use their DNA on the puppet so it has ice style as well. Plus we can put on his mask to make this potential puppet look cool. We can even have the puppet have two forms, a blade form, the way it is now, and a puppet form. So, what do you think? Wasa was deep in thought. Yasumaru did bring up a good point about the pseudo property of the Mist Village. After a few minutes of silence, Wasa said, "Well, yes, that idea would be a pretty good and powerful asset to us. I can't turn something that belongs to someone else's village into something that belongs to ours." I understand, Yasumaru would say as he's about to leave. "But I can," Wasa went on. "I can make a sword like that out of my gold dust, make it stronger, heavier, make it have more chakra embedded into it, and still make it faster than the original sword. After all of that, Kankuro would be able to work his magic and can turn it into one of, if not the most powerful ninja tool to come out of the sand. What do you think?" "I think that this will be a great surprise for him, especially with the tuning exam starting. Yasumaru said, full of joy. "Then it's settled. I'm going to make this blade in a few days, give it to Kankuro, and see what he does with the remaining days he has to train for the exams. And after that meeting, Yasumaru put the blade on, put the blade back in the scroll, gave it to Wasa, and took Kaku's body to operation room. A couple days later, the two of them went to an operation room, and with the help of other medical ninjas, they successfully extracted Haku's DNA and managed to put it into a syringe. And after an hour or two, Wasa makes the gold blade, makes the gold blade from the executioner's blade. By that I mean he looks at the executioner's blade very carefully and creates his own gold blade type thing. So now it kind of looks like it's the same size as the executioner's blade, and just with a point at the end, and it kind of just think of Asta's really big blade, but with some gold on it. That's what the gold blade is. So he finishes that in an hour or two, and then they give it to Conqueror. Conqueror is ecstatic that I can turn this amazing blade into a puppet, and in just a day he turns it into a fully functioning puppet, and after a couple more days he turns it into the strongest puppet in his arsenal. And then Yasumaru gives him the Haku syringe. They put it into the puppet, and now it's even stronger. But since this puppet is so OP, Conqueror can only use it in its blade form, and even then, he can only use the blade puppet in general for emergencies. That's it. While Wasa and Yasumaru are giving the gold blade to Conqueror, Naruto and Sumari are getting ready or training for the upcoming tuning exams. And I think that's it. That's where chapter 4 ends. If you made it all the way through this video, thank you for that. And I'm sorry for the stuttering and some of the interruptions. What else am I missing? Oh, right. Yeah, so this was the last part of the Sand Village Order. This is the last part of the Sand Village Order. And I'm not saying I'm not gonna make any more. What I'm saying is that I only made 4 chapters, so what I'm trying to say is this is the last part of the Sand Village Order that was that already had chapters made for it. Everything else I'm gonna have to make at some point. And as for the Mr. Village Order, you can expect that either later today or tomorrow. And I think that's it. Hope anyone watching this has a great day. Bye. Noob out.